Good morning, Hebrews and Shalomi homies, and she-bros too, which is not what it sounds like outside of context. Without context, it sounds like perhaps you're gender confused and you need a third bathroom, but that's not what I'm talking about. Coffee. The elixir. I'm thinking of just letting my beard grow to here. What do you think? Doesn't matter. Like this. There we go. Good? I think so. Yeah, I think that would be great. No, I don't know why there's bubble wrap on the seat next to me, but there is. We're in Luke 21 this morning, which is the New Testament, page 1013 in the scriptures. Messiah, as usual, just got done eviscerating the Pharisees and the scribes, and there's a big white dog and a small white goat and a guinea hen all trying to police each other in my front yard. This is cool. So, Messiah has just gotten done ripping the scribes and the Pharisees a new one. Beware of the scribes who like to walk in long robes and love greetings in the marketplaces and the best seats in the congregations and the best places at feasts, who devour widows' houses for a show and for a show make long prayers. They shall receive greater judgment. Chapter 21. And looking up, he, Yeshua, saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury, and he saw a certain poor widow putting in 2 mites. And he said, truly, I say to you that this poor widow has put in more than all. For all these out of their excess have put in offerings for Elohim. But she out of her poverty has put in all that she had to live on. The point that Messiah is making here is that giving in excess, now listen, giving in excess is good. We have a ministry grindstone that is highly dependent upon giving in order for us to go do the work that we do and I believe more and more the thing that we are going to do is assist in the rescuing and rehabilitation of victims of human trafficking and sex crimes. But the point that Messiah is making is that these who had plenty to give, their offerings were not worth near as much as the woman who had nothing to give, yet still gave. There's a lesson in there. I know people who have quit tithing because they come upon hard times. And it's like, no. For me, no. I remember one time we had 16 cents in our bank account. After bills were paid, employees were paid, insurance was paid, fuel in the vehicles, tithe. We had 16 cents left. We spent all weekend. Kids were like, hey, can we go see a movie? No, let's watch something on TV. Can we order pizza? Let's make a pizza. Can we? No. We're just going to stay here this weekend. And all weekend, just parade. Father, yeah, you got to do something. I got kids. I got a wife. I need the revenue. Just, you open the doors, I'll step through it. And Monday morning, the phone rang. And it rang all day, Monday. Tuesday morning, the phone rang. And it rang all day, Tuesday. On Wednesday morning, the phone rang. And at lunch on Wednesday, I had to turn it off because we had booked up 6 months worth of contracting work in 2.5 days. Because Yah is faithful, and he who can be trusted with a little can be trusted with much. And I think that's one of the parables that Yeshua is constantly trying to draw, is that when you are rich, worldly riches, you're a lot less dependent on Yahuwah. Because, the Lord's Prayer is, give us this day our daily bread. When you're not terribly concerned about where your daily bread's coming from, you forget to talk to Yah. Or you go looking for answers to your problems everywhere but Yah. And you create distance in between you and your Creator. But when you're wholly dependent upon Him, Yahuwah or Elohim, those last two mites, everything you got, you'll give to Him because you know everything you have comes from Him. You're just a steward of it. It's just passing through. It's not your money, it's His money. It's not your life, it's His life. It's not your giftings and talents, they're His giftings and talents. It's not your way, it's Yahweh. I think that's the point that Yeshua makes repeatedly with parables like this. Verse 3, and as some were speaking about the set-apart place, that it was adorned with goodly stones and gifts, he, Yeshua, said, these that you see, the days are coming in which not one stone shall be left upon another, that shall not be thrown down. And they asked him, saying, Teacher, but when shall this be? And what is the sign when this is about to take place? And he, Yeshua, said, see that you are not led astray, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am, and the time is near. Then do not go after them. But when you hear of fightings and unrests, wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed, for these have to take place first, but the end is not immediately. Then he said to them, nation shall rise against nation, and reign against reign. Nation is the word ethnos, which could mean ethnic groups or people groups. So people group against people group, and kingdom against kingdom. That's like country against country. This is race wars and traditional, conventional warfare. Wars and rumors of wars, check. People group against people group. South Africa, check. Middle East, check. Asia, check. Brief aside, who are we as Americans in 2020 to whine and complain about how bad we have it? We don't. Remember that. And hashtag blessed doesn't mean hashtag blessed because we have all the material goods that we want, as we just saw a couple verses before. Hashtag blessed is you have a 400 trillion to 1 mathematical chance of being a human being. And so not only have you usurped those odds, you were fearfully and wonderfully created in the image of your Creator for a reason. And if you can walk with Messiah daily and stay anointed in the reason that you were created in the first place to serve the kingdom of heaven, you're blessed. Blessed doesn't come from an iPhone or a Mercedes or a new pair of jeans or some nice shoes or the best meal you've ever had. Blessed is there's nobody trying to cut your head off with a dull machete because of your belief in Messiah. But I digress. Nation shall rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be great earthquakes in various places, and scarcities of food and deadly diseases. Great earthquakes in various places. Check. Scarcity of food. Getting there. Give it another couple of years, and I think that this passage here will be very applicable. And deadly diseases. COVID-19. Can't even say it on YouTube anymore. I'll pull your video like that, and I don't want that to happen. Check. And there shall be horrors. Horrors. Horrors like the guy that was recently arrested by the Demand Project, the people that we're partnered with to build Bethany House through Grindstone Ministries. One guy arrested, 200 videos on his phone of about 60 individuals, infant to 2 years old, that he was violently raping repeatedly. $150 billion a year industry. Horrors. There's only one way I know how to fix that human being. Oh, there are horrors. And there shall be horrors and great signs from heaven. But before all this, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the congregations and prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn out to you for a witness. Therefore, resolve in your hearts not to premeditate on what to answer. For I shall give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries shall not be able to refute or resist. And you shall also be betrayed by parents and brothers and relatives and friends, and some of you shall be put to death. And you shall be hated by all because of my name. Boy, do I feel that way some days. And then I'm like, and who am I? Nobody. Has anybody tried to kill me or throw me into the gulag today because of my belief in Yeshua? No. Suck it up, Buttercup. There's people that have it way worse than I do. But I'm telling you, the day is coming where if you utter the phrase Yeshua, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, the anointed of the Most High Yahweh, or Elohim, that will be enough. That will be all it takes. And in certain parts of the world right now, it is. Right now, today, that is happening. But not a hair of your head shall be lost at all. Possess your lives by endurance. And when you see Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, surrounded by armies, then know that its laying waste is near. Then let those in Judah flee to the mountains, and let those who are in the midst of her go out, and let not those who are in the fields enter her. I'm going to flip over to Revelation real quick. Revelation 12, verse 14, page 1208. And so just for context, then let those who are in Judah flee to the mountains, and let those who are in the midst of her go out, and let not those who are in the fields enter her. Don't go back in again. And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle to fly into the wilderness to her place, where she is nourished for time and times and half a time, 3.5 years, from the presence of the serpent. And out of his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river after the woman, to cause her to be swept away by the river. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the river, which the dragon had spewed out of its mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman. The woman is the church. The dragon is Hasatan, the enemy, the Nahash. And he went to fight with the remnant of her seed, those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yeshua, Messiah. I wish people would read their Bibles. Well, it's all been nailed to the cross. Is it? Was it? Why is it in Revelation? Well, you see, because... No, I don't see. I don't see it at all. I see your doctrinal bullcrap, and then I see what my Bible says. The remnant of her seed, those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yeshua, Messiah. Those having a testimony of Yeshua, of Jesus the Christ, and guarding the commands. And then we can flip over to Revelation 18, verse 4. And I heard another voice from the heavens saying, "Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins," her being Babylon. Lest you share in her sins. Sin is what? 1 John 3:4, transgression of the law. Lest you share in her lawlessness, and lest you receive of her plagues. Because her sins, because Babylon's lawlessness, Torahlessness, failure to keep the commands, because her sins have piled up to reach the heaven, and Elohim has remembered her unrighteousness. What is righteousness? Luke 1, verse 6, walking blamelessly in the commands of Yah. What do we just see in Revelation 12? The remnant of the church are those who keep the commands of Yah and have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach, of Jesus the Christ. Just so we're all tracking here. Copy. Back to Luke 21. Because these, verse 22, because these are days of vengeance to fill all that have been written. And woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing children in those days. For there shall be great distress in the earth and wrath upon the people. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword and be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trampled underfoot by the nations, until the times of the nations are filled. And there shall be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and on the earth anxiety of nations and bewilderment at the roaring of the sea and agitation, men fainting from fear and the expectation of what is coming on earth. For the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then they shall see the Son of Adam coming in a cloud, with power and much esteem, the return of Yeshua. And when these matters begin to take place, look up and lift your heads, because your redemption draws near. And he spoke a parable to them. Look at the fig tree and all the trees. When they have already budded, observing it, you shall know for yourselves that summer is now near. So also, when you see these matters take place, know that the reign of Elohim is near. So just like you know that summer's coming by the trees getting buds on them, you will know that the Son of Adam, Yeshua, is near to returning when you see all of these things take place, everything that we just discussed. This, by the way, Luke 21 is a parallel to Matthew 24, both of which tie in directly to Revelation, as we just saw. Truly, I say to you, this generation shall by no means pass away till all shall have taken place. The heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall by no means pass away. So this is a tough verse right here. Luke 21:32. Truly I say to you, this generation shall by no means pass away till all shall have taken place. There's a couple of interpretations here. There's a lot of interpretations here, but a couple that we're going to go over. The first is, generation is the word genera, which can mean race or people group. This is the explanation I like. And I would encourage you to do your own research. But genera or genera means like race. Like like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, their generations, all of the people that came of that people group. This generation, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Yah's chosen people, shall by no means pass away till all shall have taken place. I like that. I think it makes the most sense contextually and requires the least number of hoops to jump through. The other interpretation that we'll look at amongst myriad interpretations is that this is referring to, so this is about 30 AD or so that this was written-ish. Well, the temple was destroyed in 70 AD. And so when Yeshua is looking at these stones saying, these stones will not be left one atop another, they'll be cast down and destroyed, they were in 70 AD. And so that generation that was there, 70 years is a generation, 80 by strength. That's Old Testament. That generation would have still been around for the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. And so if you go with that interpretation, again saying that Luke 21 and Matthew 24 and the book of Revelation are all tied together, that would mean that the book of Revelation has already happened. Now, at the end of the book of Revelation, Yeshua returns, and there's a renewed heaven and a renewed earth. Order is restored with Yeshua as high priest, and we are living with Yeshua and with Yah. Now, quintessential to the argument that Yeshua is the Mashiach, is the anointed of Yah, that he is the chosen, there were two things among myriad prophecies that had to happen. The first was that there would be a king from the line of King David who would restore Israel to the law, right? Because kings have laws, they rule. So, again, well, that was all done away with and nailed to the cross. Your Messiah is Messiah because he is a king in the line of King David who has come per prophecy to restore the Father's law. So that's the first thing. Next, there will be peace on earth. We don't have peace on earth yet. Hell, we don't really have a restoration of the law yet. We're living it. Some of us are living it. But Yeshua brought this teaching again. As we've looked at previously and elsewhere, Deuteronomy 18. If he had taught anything, if Yeshua had taught anything other than the Father's law, he would have been a false prophet. He would have been killed, and that's it. He would have not rose from the dead. It just would have been done with. He could not have taught anything but what was already taught by Moshe, which was the Father's law. Had he done that, he would not have been the Hebraic Messiah. Okay, so that's quintessential to understand. If you claim Jesus as Christ, if you claim Yeshua as HaMashiach, you have to understand that HaMashiach, that the anointed of Yah, the Messiah, came to restore the Father's law as king in a line of King David and bring peace on earth. So he restored the Father's law by bringing the teachings of Moshe again and expanding upon them. Literally, Hebrews 8:8, the renewed covenant is that be with Hebrews 8:6, Yeshua as mediator between the Father and us. He's the go-between, just like Moses was the go-between between the Father on top of the mountain and the Israelites at the bottom of the mountain. Moses went back and forth. Yeshua went back and forth. He's the go-between, the mediator. That's straight up Hebrews 8:6. So that Hebrews 8:10, the Father's laws, could be written on our mind and in our hearts. So that Hebrews 8:12, Yahuwah, Father God, will remember our sins and our lawlessness no more. So Yeshua restored all of that. Check. That's the whole king in the line of lineage of King David, to restore the law. But what about peace on earth? And so at the time, the rabbis of the day thought it was possible that there would be two messiahs, Messiah ben David and Messiah ben Joseph. And that Messiah ben David would be the king in the line of David that would restore the Father's law, that would restore Israel to the Father, return Israel to the Father, and to rule it. Kings have laws. That's what they do. They rule. Which begs the question, are you subject to your king, or do you simply speak it with your mouth? Do your actions match your words, or do you just bleh? Bleh, Jesus is Lord. Bleh. Act like it. How dare you? No, how dare you read your Bible? Act like it. Messiah ben David did that. And then their idea was Messiah ben Joseph would be the one that was rejected, just like Joseph was rejected by the other tribes of Israel, literally the sons of Israel, Jacob, that he would be rejected and that he would suffer, but that he would bring peace and order, just like Joseph brought peace and order through trial and tribulation during the 7 years of what? Food scarcity in Egypt? Okay. What they didn't get was that Yeshua comes twice. He came once as Messiah ben David and fulfilled all of those prophecies. Right? I came not to destroy the Torah or the prophets, but to complete. Matthew 5:17. That word complete is plerau, to embody. I came to embody the Torah and the prophets, which he had to do. He had to be it, to live it, to show us how to do it, to fulfill the messianic prophecies of Messiah ben David, to return us to the Father. And then when he comes again in Revelation, Messiah ben Joseph, to restore world order and peace. Every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess. At the time, this is why the resurrection is so important, because he has to come twice. Instead of two different messiahs, it's one Messiah coming two different times. I realize there's a lot of stuff going on here, which is why I would encourage you to read your Bible and do your own research, because you will not be taught this in the church. What you'll get in church is a self-help motivational speaker telling you 3 reasons why we're going to love our brother this week and have a great week in the Lord. And let's hurry up and wrap this thing up because, hey, the Chiefs play at 12:30 and I can't miss that game. I got $50 riding on that game. So, all right, worship team, bring it up. Let's do this thing. We're going to pray it out. Everybody have a great week. Pack it up. I'm going home. Yeah. So, but getting back to generations, if what's being referred to here is the destruction of the temple, that means that everything in Revelation would have already come to pass, because Luke 21, Matthew 24, and Revelation are all tied together. Well, we don't have peace on earth. So I'm going to skew away from that interpretation and get back to the first interpretation, like I said, genera, meaning race or people group, meaning the generations of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then us. Because Jacob becomes Israel, Israel becomes the 12 tribes of Israel, and then they're dispersed. They go out into the world, they're scattered, and then to be what? The esteem of the Gentiles, the glory of the Gentiles. Yep, read the prophets. We're Gentiles. We're grafted into the tree of life. What is the tree of life? It's Israel. We're grafted into Israel. There's a whole reason our Old Testament readings are called no roots, no fruit. Because the branch doesn't grow without the roots. The roots are our Hebraic traditions, and not even traditions, biblical truths. Biblical truths. which Yeshua restored us to, fulfilling the prophecies of Messiah ben David. Okay, so genera, for me, in my interpretation, is the Father's chosen people. These generations of people will be perpetuated until all is done. That being said, this is certainly a hot button topic. Hell, everything we talk about here is a hot button topic. The very fact that one should even attempt to keep the commands is a hot button topic. But Yeshua literally says in John 14:15, if you love me, keep my commands. So that shouldn't be debated, yet it is. Verse 33, the heaven and the earth shall pass away, but my words shall by no means pass away. And take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be weighted down by gluttony and drunkenness and worries of this life, and that day come on you suddenly. For it shall come as a snare on all those dwelling on the face of the earth. Have you ever seen a snare work? I have. Especially if you're into bushcrafting and survival. Bend a sapling over, have a little pin that holds it, attach a trigger pin attached to a wire loop, and when something enters into there, it snatches it up and yanks it out, and you're just, it shall come as a snare. Think about the mental imagery there. It just, dead. Like that. For these, and take heed to yourselves, that all the anxiety and struggle and strife that's being represented by these birth pangs, the beginning of all of this that's going on, those that would seek to cover up that pain and anxiety and uncertainty, weighted down by gluttony and drunkenness and the worries of this life, that day will come on you suddenly. For it shall come as a snare on all those dwelling on the face of all the earth. Like that. Watch then at all times and pray that you be counted worthy to escape all this about to take place and to stand before the Son of Adam. Be counted worthy to escape and to stand before the Son of Adam. Flip back to Revelation real quick. Revelation 19. This is easy to remember if you're a gun guy. Revelation 19:18. Because 45 is the best round. Revelation 19:11. Although we'll start in 19:9. And he said to me, write. This is Revelation again. And this is an angel speaking to John. And he said to me, write, blessed are those who have been called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. That's us, those who endure to the end, who are found worthy. And he said to me, these are the true words of Elohim. And I fell at his feet to worship him. But he said to me, see, do not do it. I am your fellow servant and your brothers who possess the witness of Yeshua. Worship Elohim. Do we worship Yeshua? We're thankful for Yeshua. Eminently thankful for Yeshua. But we worship Elohim. Yeshua returns us to the Father. Your brothers who possess the witness of Yeshua, worship Elohim. For the witness of Yeshua is the spirit of prophecy. And I saw the heaven opened, and there was a white horse. And he who sat on him was called trustworthy and true. And in righteousness he judges and fights. This is Yeshua on the white horse. In righteousness he judges. Righteousness. Luke 1 verse 6, walking blamelessly in the commands of Yah. I'm telling you, read Revelation, you will be amazed. And especially if you understand, everywhere it says he who overcomes, that means Israel. And if you've overcome with Elohim, you are Israel. You should read Revelation 2 and 3 and underline everywhere it says he who overcomes. You'll be amazed. I did the same thing. I was like, wow, he's talking to us. So Yeshua judges with righteousness. Righteousness, blamelessly walking in all the commands of Yah. That's the definition from the book of Luke, New Testament. And in righteousness he judges and fights. And his eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, having the name that had been written, which no one perceived except himself, and having been dressed in a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Yahuwah. Be not just hearers of the word, but doers also. And the armies in the heavens, dressed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. And out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations. And he shall shepherd them with a rod of iron, and he treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of El Shaddai, the Father Yah. And on his robe and on his thigh he has a name written, Sovereign of Sovereigns and Master of Masters. And I saw one messenger standing in the sun, and he cried in a loud voice, saying to all the birds that fly in mid-heaven, Come and gather together for the supper of the great Elohim, to eat the flesh of sovereigns, and the flesh of commanders, and the flesh of the strong ones, and the flesh of horses, and of those who sit on them, and the flesh of all the people, free and slave, both small and great. And I saw the beast and the sovereigns of the earth and their armies gathered together to fight him who sat on the horse and his army. And the beast was seized, and with him the false prophet, who worked signs in his presence, by which he led astray those who received the mark of the beast, and those who worshipped his image. The two were thrown alive into the lake of fire burning with sulfur. And the rest were killed with the sword, which came from the mouth of him who sat on the horse. And all the birds were filled with their flesh. See, in verse 17, this messenger calls all the birds that fly in mid-heaven, come and gather together for the supper of the great Elohim. You will be slain with the sword that protrudes out of Yeshua's mouth, which is the truth, which is righteousness, and righteousness he judges. You are either counted worthy, or you are bird food. Don't be bird food. I told you that Luke 21 and Matthew 24 and the book of Revelation all go hand in hand. Yeshua restores us to Yah. He returns us unto righteousness. Back to Luke 21, verse 37. And he, Yeshua, was teaching in the set-apart place by day, but at night he went out and stayed on the mountain of Olives. And early in the morning all the people came to him in the set-apart place to hear him. Amen. Are we in end times? My gut, not yet. Could we be? Absolutely. I believe every generation since the days that Yeshua walked the face of this earth has thought, we're there, man. How could this not be the end of the earth? How could this not be end times? Yet and still, this generation endures. Yah's chosen people endured. When Yeshua comes, he will come like a snare. And we are to take heed and watch. We are to walk in righteousness. First Peter 2:21, for this we were called, so that we would walk in the footsteps of our Messiah, that in him was found no sin, no lawlessness. We were called to walk in his steps, in which there is no lawlessness, and no deceit comes out of his mouth. That we might be found worthy at the end of an age. That either we go meet our Maker and hear the words, well done, good and faithful servant, or we're found worthy to not suffer and die at the hand of Yeshua himself when he comes back to judge the world in righteousness. I don't want to be bird food. I'm trying to live my life in such a way that not only will I not be bird food, but the people that I love will not be bird food. And that the people that I come in contact with on the daily will be better off for knowing me than when you should leave me better than you found me. That's how I try and conduct myself. I fail, but I try to conduct myself that way. Because isn't that how Yeshua did it? And we're not to be fearful. Eyes wide open. I know where I'm going. I know where everybody I love is going. If judgment happened 14 minutes from now, I know where we're going. I know what's happening. I know the disposition of my soul. There are no question marks for me. I do not want to hasten the day, but there are no question marks for me. If there are question marks for you, I would encourage you to get on your knees and pray. Shalom.